Good morning, Westchester. I'm your host, Renya, and you're listening to WC Wellness. So, originally, I was gonna make an episode on building habits, and I still might. But right now, it kinda didn't feel right talking about building habits and creating a sustainable lifestyle when my lifestyle right now currently is not very sustainable. I've realized that in the past couple of months, I have taken on too much and I was trying to juggle too much, so I kind of dropped the ball. I didn't realize exactly how exhausted I was until I ended up falling asleep Monday night, I think it was 9 p.m., and then I woke up Tuesday at like 7 p.m. I guess I was just literally so exhausted that I just needed to pass out for like an entire day in order to recuperate, and that's like how far I ran myself into the ground. So instead of talking about building habits, I'm going to be talking about why it's so important to have a rest break. A lot of people were telling me that I was going to burn myself out and that I was going to wear myself out, and at the time I kind of felt invincible. I'm like, no, I can keep going, I can keep doing all these classes, I can keep doing like all of this work, all of this. And for a while I could, and it was really nice, but then obviously I started to wear myself down. I noticed myself in the past couple of weeks getting more and more tired. I needed more sleep, I needed more caffeine, my mood wasn't as good. I was just really tired and I just really wasn't myself, and a lot of the stuff that I used to love doing, I didn't love so much anymore. It was definitely clarified to me when I had to take an entire day off. I actually skipped 2 of my classes by accident. I slept through them and I almost missed a pop quiz that closed like 15 minutes before I woke up, so I got that done. I aced it, which is good, but I mean, at the beginning of the semester, I loved all of my professors, I loved all of my classes, all of the work I was doing, and now I was just kind of getting really tired of like the repetitive motions, but it's because I wasn't able to give 100% in everything. I mean, when you've got so much on your plate, you cannot give 100% into everything. You can only kind of give 10% into everything in order to keep yourself afloat. I just kept picking up more and more shifts as school was starting to ramp up, and I just wasn't able to handle it all. So I just needed to take a couple days and just to have a little break. I didn't have any time to myself. I didn't have any time to sleep. I didn't have any time to clean my room. You could barely walk in my room. It was so bad. But this weekend, I kind of took a couple nights to myself, and it was really nice, and I was able to just focus on myself. My mind was more clear, I was able to get more schoolwork done, and at the end of it, I felt a little more refreshed. It just really sucks because I know so many people, almost everyone I know is going through that right now. It's so hard to be a young adult in today's society because we have so many different things to worry about. I feel like society just expects so much of us. I mean, we're kind of expected to go to university, we have to find a way to pay for it or someone else to pay for it, and if we can't do that, then we have to get a part-time job while being a full-time student, and then there's rent, and then there's food, and there's all of these expenses. There's just so much to do all the time, there's so much pressure on us, and a lot of society isn't even looking the greatest. Like, the market and the economy are terrible right now. Everyone is struggling to survive. And I just feel like lately, everyone has such high expectations of themselves and what other people should be doing, and everyone's just so busy and just booked up that no one takes time for themselves anymore, and now everyone's burnt out. Because I was on the phone with my friend last night, and she goes to Bloomsburg. She's like a biochem major, she does track and field and like cross country, and she also works, and she was like crying to me. She's so stressed out, and she's like, I can't do this. How am I supposed to do this? How are we supposed to live like this? And you know what's insane to me? One of my coworkers who works almost full-time at Wawa, she's also a student, she was like, yeah, I'm getting a second job to help pay for things. I mean, that's just crazy. You should not have to be working like 2 different jobs while being a full-time student so you don't go into crippling debt. I mean, I feel like the point is everyone is burnt out and everyone is exhausted. One thing I remember my friend telling me in freshman year was that everyone looked so sad here. We were like walking around from Sykes or something, and he turns to me and he's like, you know what, everyone looks really sad here. I didn't really know what to think of that, but it's like, it's not a question of why we all feel sad, it's a how do we stop feeling sad. I feel like the way society is set up and how certain things are structured, it makes the morale among young adults kind of low. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's tons of things I love about life, but it is kind of depressing sometimes when you just look at the situation that we are forced under. And I feel like society has so many expectations of us that it's like we cannot take a break. If we are not doing something productive, such as going to work or going to school or doing homework, then we should feel guilty for doing something else, you know? I mean, maybe it was just the way I was raised, but my parents were the kind of people to over-exaggerate, like, going to school. Like, my mom would be like, yeah, I trekked, like, 5 miles up and down hills in the snow in Connecticut back in, like, 85, blah, 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 all of this funny stuff. Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. But I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. And my parents taught me a really good work ethic, but they also kind of made me feel a little guilty for needing to take a couple of rest days. I mean, maybe it's just because my sister was like a professional athlete and like my sister was a ballet dancer and this and that, but they really disciplined us, if anything. I mean, it wasn't really until recently I learned how important it was to have a rest day. I mean, my mom's pretty cool and she was able to do so much all the time, and she was like able to go to the gym like 5 days a week, all of this kind of stuff while being a mom to 3 kids. I mean, that's incredible, and she set really high standards. But now I kind of feel guilty when I take some time off. And I was sitting here this morning and I'm like, I feel really bad that I missed an entire day. I skipped 2 of my classes. I have no idea what's for homework, this, that. And I was kind of blaming myself, and I was kind of thinking, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. No, it was okay that I took a break. I mean, clearly if I was able to sleep for that long, I really, really needed it. So in a way, I'm kind of glad that happened. Because I mean, the way I was going, I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and everything kind of kept building up until it just kind of came to a close. But it's making me realize how much I need to take a break and how much the people around me need to take a break. I mean, I just know so many of my classmates, all of my friends, my coworkers, they're all so tired. They're always coming in and they're always like, oh, I have so much homework to get done. Oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm so tired all the time. And my manager, he's the sweetest. He cares about us, and like he's like, I'm not gonna let you work overtime because you're gonna burn yourself out, this or that. And it's so funny because no one listens to him, and they're all like, I want overtime, I want this, that, blah, blah, blah. I mean, why? I mean, obviously I understand why. The money is fantastic, but also like, why burn yourself out? It just kind of really sucks that today's society we have to work that much in order to afford university, in order to afford food and rent and all of the necessities, and even the things that aren't necessities. I see all the time people talking about like, oh, if you had that grind set, you need to get that bread, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of those times, those people preach not getting the little things in life. A lot of quotes I see are like, maybe if you didn't spend like $7 on that Starbucks Frappuccino, you would have $7 more, and if you saved that every single time, you'd have like this much by the end of it. I mean, I understand that that's good motivation, and if that works for you, that's good, but I also feel like it's sending another message. I feel like the most important thing is to have everything in moderation, but like, it's okay to splurge in moderation. And you know what? Money can buy happiness. So if that $7 is worth $7 of Starbucks Frappuccino happiness, then I will gladly buy it. But seriously, what's the point of working your ass off all day at school, or working your ass off all night at work, and then boom, suddenly it's 9 p.m. and you're so tired, so then you go to bed and then you wake up and you do it all again with nothing good in between. What good does that really do any of us? I mean, yeah, I understand if you're buying like, $20 of Starbucks and like $10 of Wawa every day. But that small increment of money for a treat that's few and far between, like, that's not a bad thing. I just really hate the narrative of being so stingy that you can't enjoy anything, because that doesn't make the bigger goals that are harder to achieve any more enjoyable. I mean, in my opinion, it just makes the path getting there a lot more miserable. It's like, if the professor allows us 3 unexcused absences, you bet your ass I'm gonna take all 3 of them. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna be smart about it, I'm gonna plan it out like once every month kind of thing. But if they're offering that to us, why don't I take it? It doesn't make me lazy, it doesn't make me this or that. It's just giving myself off days when I need it. I mean, this Tuesday, I used one of my skips for both my classes because I needed it. I mean, yeah, sometimes I feel a little guilty about it, but at the end of the day, like, I clearly needed that rest, and it shouldn't have come down to me passing out for me to understand that. And now that I'm kind of aware that my schedule was a little too booked, I'm going to change it. I mean, some things I can't change, like my class schedule, my homework load, my work schedule. But what I can do is make more time for myself. I mean, listen, if this semester I can't go to the gym 3 days a week and do heavy lifting, that's okay. I can cut it back down to like 2 or 1 even. My progress will still be there. Muscles have good memory. When I go back to the gym, it will not be hard gaining that muscle back. Or maybe if I do need to cut back on my hours at work, that's what I'll do if I want to fit the gym in. I mean, the next steps moving forward are to prioritize and kind of make adjustments to my schedule. I definitely need to kind of have at least like 5 hours of me time every week, whether it's spaced out or just 5 hours after work kind of thing. And I kind of need to just make sure that everything I do going forward is kind of in moderation, because I really don't want another burnout episode like I just had. I mean, the main things I wanted to come on here and say is to just take care of yourself. I know that a lot of people have so many expectations placed upon themselves. I know that a lot of people hold themselves to a high standard and they want to get things done and they want to be productive, and I think that is incredible. But because of this hard work ethic and a lot of societal standards, people are afraid to take breaks and take some time for themselves, some much needed time, in order to continue achieving their goals. I mean, personally, I wouldn't say that I was running on empty. I was definitely running on a full tank, but I kind of got a leak in the tank, and as I kept going, I felt empty. Just be really, really careful when you're doing that, especially when you think you can take on so much and you kind of test the waters for a couple of weeks and you're like, yeah, I got this, but then you keep going and you kind of start feeling yourself getting more and more tired. I mean, that's how it definitely was for me, and that's how I know it is for a lot of people, because a lot of people I know are starting to say, hey, I can't work this much, hey, I might have to withdraw from this class, this, that. That is all okay, and it's highly encouraged that you do that if you need to do that to take care of yourself. I mean, some of my favorite conversations with my customers were me asking them like what their weekend plans were and them saying, oh, well, I don't really have anything planned. And then I say, well, you should take a self-care day. I mean, it's kind of more of the men that ask me about it and they're like, oh, what's that? And I'm like, well, it's just a day you take to yourself. You kind of do whatever you want to do. You don't have any expectations and you just relax. And then one of my favorite regulars, he's like, you know what? I haven't heard of that. I will go do that. And then he left, and then the next day he came back and he saw me and he's like, you know what, Renya? I had the best self-care day ever. Thank you for mentioning that to me. It was so sweet, and I'm glad that I could help him out. I just feel like it's expected that 100% of your time has to go into corporate or your academic work. I feel like it's just a lot of pressure for people, especially people that have so much going on, including external and internal stuff. I mean, with how things are looking, it's almost fatalistic. Rent is increasing, minimum wage is barely increasing, we have so many more fees, blah blah blah, this and that. And it's very hard to discover that this is the world that we are going to become adults in. I mean, the last couple of weeks I'd say have been not entirely bad weeks, but they haven't been the best kind of weeks. But I was definitely starting to feel kind of a little just tired and worn out. And I kind of had to keep reminding myself that it was a bad couple of days, it wasn't a bad life, and I loved what I was doing. Unfortunately, it took a little more to actually realize that I needed to take a break, and I could not just repeat, you know, it's a bad day, not a bad life, because that didn't really fix anything. What really got me feeling better was taking a little time to myself and readjusting my schedule for the future so I could take even more time to myself and not run into this again. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it's really important to listen to you, what your body needs, and to not feel guilty when you need to take a break. Burnout is a really bad thing, it's real, and it can last for years. I was very lucky that I caught it probably in the beginning stages, and I was able to just have a day of recuperation and get better the next day, but it's not the same for a lot of people. So really, just make sure that you take care of yourself and you listen to yourself. Thank you. I'm Renya, and you're listening to WC Wellness.